Hello to you. My name is Jesse Johnson. This video is African American Music and Dance 1500 to 2020. Its genres, which includes its forms, types, and styles, once again 1500 to 2020. In this video, it has two headings: the political economic institution, then secondly, the institution of art. We'll start with the political economic institution, then go to the artistic institution. Apart from Native Americans, music and dance, African American music and dance genre, which includes its forms, types, and styles, are the only native and indigenous music and dance forms of this land, now called United States of America. All other forms were created elsewhere in other cultures. African American music is the only completely universal music all over this earth at this time on the whole earth. There is nothing equal or to be compared to it. All present United States American groups, ancestors, immigrated to this land willingly, except for three groups. One, Native Americans. The indigenous peoples of this land have been here over 12,000 years to the present. Number two, Mexican Americans, been inhabiting the Californias, Arizonas, New Mexico, and Texas land areas for 10,000 years to the present. Number three, and African Americans, whose ancestors were forced to come here at gunpoint. By 1780, the United States of America was established by the European Americans, sometimes called white Americans, and their ancestors arrived by immigrating here willingly in the 1490s. All ancestral groups of the present United States of America, except for Native Americans, Mexican Americans, and African American descent, immigrated here willingly within 500 years to the present. Some of these immigrant groups are European Americans, came here approximately 500 years ago from small countries making up the political boundaries of the political entity called Europe. This also includes Asian whites, such as Russians. Now, this includes Chinese Americans, Cambodian Americans, Japanese Americans, Vietnamese Americans, Canadian Americans, from all the different islands, Americans, Asian, Indian Americans, etc., and many other places. And all born here, once coming here, making them 100% equal Americans. You cannot be born here more than someone else was and is born here. The African Americans who did not immigrate here, but were forced to come here at gunpoint, started around 1620 proper because of enslavement of them by European Americans for economic purposes. African Americans were enslaved from 1625 to 1865, or about 240 years. African Americans were never slaves, but only enslaved, since their proudness as kings and queens in their own land would not allow them to bow. You are a slave only if you accept being a slave. You're a loser only if you accept being a loser. The whip and the gun means nothing. They may bow the body, but they cannot bow the mind. In 1865, the enslavement stopped officially of African Americans by European Americans, but the oppression never stopped to this present day, or 155 years. In other words, 240 years plus 155 years equals 395 years of oppression. Enslavement oppression plus non-enslavement oppression. Once children were born to blacks here, that their children were Americans, and all oppressive actions, all of it taken against African Americans, which is anti by European Americans who hold the main power at this moment in the United States of America, was and is anti-American as well as racist. 395 years of European American anti-Americanism, not only against blacks, but against every other United States American group that makes up the United States of American citizenry. When you are a racist against others. Who are you a racist against? Other Americans? White Americans, approximately 80% of its adult population, are anti-American in general and racist on top of that. All 50 states. All of their institutions are racist and anti-American. In those 395 years, African Americans, in their immense struggles against European Americans or white Americans, anti-Americanism and racism, have produced, created, and done what no other group of people, oppressed or unoppressed, have done in the arts. Their music and dance art is earth universal. Every 192 countries on earth totally accepting Black American music and dance of the United States of America. There are blacks in America, United States that is, who don't even know this. Outside of Native American music and dance, African American music dance is 100% native and indigenous to this land, United States of America that is. Their ancestors stripped of their original art. No other music and dance of other American groups is native to this land. Why? Because it was brought here from other cultures, other countries, fully developed. European or Americans or white Americans have sought in every single anti-American and white racist political and economic means to rob, steal, and to incorporate into their music African American music and dance, and to try and claim it as their own by forcefully destroying as much African American culture at every turn by oppressive laws. European Americans use racism against Black Americans no less than 300 million times per day, subtly and grossly, outright, violently, in every form, trying to destroy African Americans' art, culture, scientific achievements, political, artistic and sport achievements, economic and community achievements to this day, and much more. Let's begin now with the artistic institution, the artistic achievements, music and dance forms, the total genre, which includes its forms, types, and styles from 1500 to 2020 of African Americans. Hold on, please. I'm going to move the camera. Let's continue, please. We will begin with the Art Institution of African Americans or Black Americans. Their national anthem, the Black National Anthem, written in 1899 by James W. Johnson, put to music in the year 1900 by John Johnson. The name of the Black National Anthem is Lift Every Voice and Sing. Let's go now to the Black National Christmas Song, written in 1948 by Charles Brown. This song is Please Come Home for Christmas. Let's continue, please. Oops. Excuse me just for a second, please. I seem to have gotten a little bit... Okay, let's go to music. African American Art, Institutional Creations, 1640 to 2020. We'll start with number one. Ari Hooley's Field Holler, 1640, 1650s. Chant, created in these, approximately in these years. Ari Hooley's Field Holler. Number two, Chant, Drumming Holler, 1750 to 1780s. Number three, Hymnal Refrain, 1790s. Spirituals, the early form, 1800s early. Number five, Black Country Music in the 1800s early. Number six, Camp Meeting Songs in the 1810s. Number seven, Blues, the early form, 1820s early. Bohemian, 1820s, ring shout. Ring shout, 1820s. Spirituals, the late form, 1840s, late. Negro songs, 1830s. Hymns, 1860s. Minstrels, 1870s. Gospel, 1890s, early form. Ragtime, 1895 to 1899. Jazz, the bass form of jazz, 1900. Grand Opries, 1900. Let's continue, please. We'll go to 18. Jazz, big city form, 1900. 19, Jazz Blues, 1910s. Number 20, Classic Blues, 1915. Number 21, Boogie Woogie, 1930s, early. Number 22, Rhythm and Blues, big city form, 1930s. Mix, 1940s. Rock and Roll, 1940s, late. Gospel Blues, 1950s. Doo-wop, 1950s, early. Soul, 1950s, mid. Symphonic Soul, 1950s, late. Funk, 1960s, 1960s, the mid. Heavy Metal, 1960s, late. Rap, 1970s, late. Hip-hop, gangster rap, 1980s. Now we will go to the dance forms that African Americans have created here as indigenous forms of dancing. Dance, African American art, institutional creations, 1500 to 2020. Number 1, Juba, 1500 to 1700s, created within that time. Number 2, foot stomping, 1750 to 1800s. 3, buck, early form of buck dancing, the forerunner of tap dancing. 1840s, mid-1840s. Sanctified dancing, 1850s, mid. Buck dancing, the late form of it, 1880s, late. Cakewalk, 1891. Swing, 1910s. Jitterbug, 1920s. Lindy Hop, 1930s. Shuffle, 1920s. Tap dancing, offshoot of buck dancing. Number 11, tap dancing, 1920s. Rock and roll dances, 1950s. Soul dances, 1960s. Let's continue, please. The soul dances includes the twist, the mashed potatoes, the bump, and so forth. Number 14, the break dancing, 1980s, late. Number 15, juking, 1990s, late. I want to thank everyone for listening and watching. Please share this video, subscribe, and have a very good day.